I really like this music.
Me too!
It's got a good beat and you can dance to it.
Well, then maybe we'll see you both in the next Business Hall of Fame dance video. The band told me that one was a Duke Ellington song. Did you know that he and other great jazz musicians used to perform right here in Denver?
Yes, Charles R. Cousins was actually a key backer of the 5 Points jazz scene. They call him the godfather of jazz.
Both he and his father worked incredibly hard to benefit their family and community. Thanks to JA volunteers, I've learned that I too can become successful in this land of opportunity, just like the Cousins.
Let's watch a video to learn more about Charles R. and Charles L. Cousins.
It is impossible to travel the streets of Northeast Denver and 5 Points without thinking of the Cousins family and how the rich history of property, philanthropy, and music stretches throughout their lives. Charles L. Cousins was born in Big Stone Gap, Virginia in 1881.
The family moved to Atchison, Kansas.
He had to quit school after the 6th grade to help contribute financially to the family.
Being born in 1881, he really represented the first generation post-slavery.
He purchased his first home at the age of 17.
My grandfather and his wife, Alta, moved to Denver in 1909.
Was a self-made man in every regard. He taught himself the trades, built his own properties, and in doing so inspired Charles Jr. To be a self-starter.
And he did this on a Pullman porter's salary.
Charles and Alta Cousins were pioneer members of the historic Zion Baptist Church.
By the time that the Depression came, my grandfather had enough properties to be able to house people who would have otherwise been homeless. And he did that at no cost because he had a conscience.
What was extraordinary about both Charles Sr. and my grandfather is that they were part of what was really the vanguard of the civil rights movement. They unionized. They too were really part of an important evolution of race relations in the history of our country.
Charles R. Cousins was born in Denver in 1918.
See, there was 4 girls before I came along, and so they said they had a little brother. And when I go through 5 Points now, they say, "Hello, brother." Everybody calls me brother.
He was part of that generation that worked on the railroad. In order to work on the railroad, you had to have certain characteristics if you were black. You had to be handsome. You had to be very verbal, linguistically, and being able to talk to people.
Shortly after, he opened the 715 Bar in Denver. He married Dorothy Elizabeth Caldwell in 1947.
He was a firefighter, he was a cookie store owner, he was a car wash owner. He also accumulated property.
Music was a very important component in his life.
I know of every band that came into Denver because I like music that much.
He applied for and was issued the very first jukebox license.
From that, I got into the jukebox business in the late 30s, and I've been in it ever since.
He promoted many, many musical events. He was so proud to be nicknamed the mayor of 5 Points. Unofficially, of course, but he was.
Though he was a friend and confidant colleague of the most powerful people in the city and the state, he was also a friend and an advocate of the most humble.
All the boys at Manual High School always knew Brother Cousins. If you were short of money and didn't have anything to eat, Brother Cousins would give it to you.
Our family had been displaced. He provided housing for them. I chose Charles Cousins to be named the Manual Citizen of the Century.
The license plate that he had on his car, "I owe you zero." You know, he believed in financial independence and financial empowerment for himself.
My father and grandfather didn't achieve what they did in a vacuum. They had strong women behind them.
He represented the best that the business world has to offer, but he also represented the best that human beings have to offer.
Please welcome to the stage the daughter of Charles L. and the granddaughter of Charles R. Cousins, Renee Cousins King.
Good evening. On behalf of my extended family, some of whom are here with me, my son Pascal and my cousin Devendra, as well as my ancestors, particularly my grandfather and my late father, we want to express our appreciation for being inducted into the Colorado Business Hall of Fame. I thought about what my grandparents would have said if they were here, and I think they would have emphasized the truth of the ancient proverb, where there is no vision, the people perish. Where there is no vision, the people perish. I think that had my grandfather not had the work ethic and the sense of enterprise that he had, he wouldn't have been able to bring his vision into reality, and it resonates with many of us today. Speaking of today, I want to tell particularly the young people here a quick story. Growing up, my dad gave me lots of tools. He liked to share his resources with everyone, but he was always giving me some kind of secondhand tool. And a few years before he died, he had one of his buddies take him to a garage sale, and he came back with this huge old wooden leveler. And he said, "Here, baby, Dad got you a leveler." And I thought, oh, great, what am I going to do with this? So I put it in my garage, and it stayed there for years. And this very winter, fall into winter, I had occasion to use it. I had hired a roofer to do to replace a roof on a commercial building that had a flat roof, and I knew, even though I'm not a roofer, I'm actually a pediatrician, but I knew that the water wasn't flowing properly. And so I went up on the roof. That's a different story. But I got up on the roof with this old leveler, and I showed that young man just which way the water flowed. So I made my point, and the point of this story to the young people is, when your teachers and elders give you tools, and tools can be a metaphor for advice, when they give you tools, hang on to them because you'll use them. Thank you.